Throughout the ages, we have witnessed the rise of powerful leaders who have amassed immense wealth and controlled vast empires. However, when such power is coupled with an insatiable desire for riches, it can lead to corruption, abuse of power, and tyranny on an unprecedented scale. In this video, we will explore the lives and legacies of some of the wealthiest and most notorious dictators in history. From ancient tyrants to modern despots, we will delve into their personal fortunes and examine the methods they used to acquire their wealth. From the opulent lifestyles of Saddam Hussein and Muammar Gaddafi to the hidden treasures of Mobutu Sese Seko and Ferdinand Marcos, we will explore the shocking fortunes of these rulers and the impact they had on their people and the world. Join us as we delve into the fascinating and often terrifying world of the richest dictators in history. Before we begin, make sure you have subscribed to our channel and don't forget to hit the bell icon to keep yourself updated with our regular uploads. 7. Teodoro Obiang Nguema Mbazogo of Equatorial Guinea, $600 million. Mbazogo is the current president of Equatorial Guinea, a small country located on the west coast of Africa. He has been in power since 1979, making him one of the longest-serving heads of state in the world. During his time in power, Obiang has been accused of numerous human rights abuses, including torture and suppression of political opposition. He has also been criticized for his government's corruption and for mismanaging the country's oil wealth. Despite this, Obiang has amassed a significant personal fortune, estimated to be over $600 million. Much of his wealth is believed to have come from the country's oil reserves, which he has used to fund his lavish lifestyle and enrich himself and his family. Obiang is known for his opulent tastes, which have earned him the nickname Playboy of the Western World. He has a collection of luxury cars and a private jet, and his son is reported to have spent over $300 million on property and luxury goods around the world. While Equatorial Guinea has one of the highest GDPs per capita in Africa, much of the population lives in poverty, and the country ranks low on human development indices. Obiang's regime has been criticized for failing to distribute the country's wealth fairly and for prioritizing the interests of the ruling elite over those of ordinary citizens. 6. Saddam Hussein of Iraq, $2 billion. Saddam Hussein was the president of Iraq from 1979 until his removal from power in 2003. He is known for his brutal regime and human rights abuses, including the use of chemical weapons against his own people and the persecution of ethnic and religious minorities. During his time in power, Hussein amassed a personal fortune estimated at up to $2 billion. Much of his wealth was obtained through corruption, including the theft of Iraq's oil revenues and other state resources. Hussein lived in a lavish lifestyle, with numerous palaces and estates throughout Iraq. He also had a collection of luxury cars, including a number of custom-built Mercedes-Benz limousines. After the U.S.-led invasion of Iraq in 2003, Hussein was captured and put on trial for crimes against humanity. He was ultimately sentenced to death and executed by hanging in 2006. Despite his removal from power, Hussein's legacy continues to shape Iraq's political landscape, and the country remains unstable and politically divided. 5. Mobutu Sese Seko of Zaire, now the Democratic Republic of Congo, $5 billion. Mobutu Sese Seko was the president of Zaire from 1965 to 1997. He seized power in a military coup and ruled the country with an iron fist for over 3 decades. Mobutu's regime was characterized by corruption and cronyism, with much of the country's wealth being siphoned off by his family and associates. By some estimates, Mobutu and his family accumulated a personal fortune of up to $5 billion. Mobutu's personal tastes were extravagant, and he was known for his love of luxury cars, private jets, and yachts. He also had numerous properties both in Zaire and abroad, including a palace in Gabadolite and a mansion in the French Riviera. Mobutu's regime was also linked to a number of human rights abuses, including the killing of suspected political opponents and the suppression of ethnic minority groups. His downfall came in 1997, when rebel forces led by Laurent Désiré Kabila overthrew his regime with the help of neighboring countries. Mobutu fled the country into exile and died later that year in Morocco. 4. Suharto of Indonesia, $30 billion. Suharto was the second president of Indonesia, serving from 1967 to 1998. During his long rule, Suharto was known for his authoritarian style and his suppression of political opposition. Suharto's regime was also characterized by corruption and cronyism, with much of the country's wealth being siphoned off by his family and associates. By some estimates, Suharto and his family accumulated a personal fortune of up to $30 billion. Suharto's personal tastes were relatively modest compared to some other dictators on this list. He was known to be a frugal and disciplined leader, living in a relatively modest residence in Jakarta and driving an old car. Despite his relatively low-key lifestyle, Suharto's regime was linked to a number of human rights abuses, including the killing of suspected communists in the 1960s and the suppression of separatist movements in Aceh and East Timor. Suharto was forced to resign in 1998 after widespread protests against his rule, triggered by the Asian financial crisis and growing discontent with his authoritarian style. His resignation marked the end of one of the longest and most oppressive regimes in modern Southeast Asian history. 3. Hosni Mubarak of Egypt, $70 billion. Hosni Mubarak was the president of Egypt from 1981 to 2011. During his long reign, Mubarak was known for his authoritarian style and his suppression of political opposition. Despite being a key U.S. ally in the region, Mubarak's regime was characterized by corruption and human rights abuses. His family and associates were accused of using their positions of power to accumulate vast wealth and siphon off state resources. Mubarak himself was estimated to have a personal fortune of up to $70 billion, much of which was obtained through corruption and embezzlement. His lavish lifestyle included numerous palaces and properties throughout Egypt, as well as a private yacht. Mubarak's regime was also linked to a number of human rights abuses, including the use of torture and the suppression of political opposition. His downfall came in 2011 during the Arab Spring uprisings, when mass protests erupted across Egypt, calling for an end to his regime. After weeks of protests, Mubarak resigned from power and was subsequently put on trial for corruption and human rights abuses. He was ultimately sentenced to life in prison, but was released in 2017 after serving only 6 years. 2. Vladimir Putin of Russia, $70 billion. Vladimir Putin is the current president of the Russian Federation. He has been in power since 2000, serving 2 terms as president before becoming prime minister from 2008 to 2012, and then president again since 2012. During his time in office, Putin has been accused of suppressing political opposition, limiting freedom of speech in the press, and manipulating elections. He has also been linked to a number of human rights abuses, including the killing of political opponents and journalists. Putin's personal wealth is a matter of speculation, but some estimates place his net worth at up to $70 billion. This is due in part to his control over Russia's vast natural resources, including its oil and gas reserves. Putin's popularity at home remains high, and he has been credited with restoring Russia's standing on the world stage. However, he is also a controversial figure on the global stage, with many countries accusing Russia of interfering in their internal affairs and engaging in aggressive military actions, particularly in Ukraine and Syria. 1. Muammar Gaddafi of Libya, $200 billion. Muammar Gaddafi was the leader of Libya from 1969 until 2011, when he was overthrown and killed during the Arab Spring uprisings. During his rule, Gaddafi was known for his eccentric personality and his unique political philosophy, which he called Third International Theory. Gaddafi was also known for his lavish lifestyle and personal wealth, which was estimated to be over $30 billion. Much of his wealth was obtained through Libya's vast oil reserves, which he used to fund ambitious development projects and to enrich himself and his family. Gaddafi's personal tastes were extravagant and idiosyncratic. He had a collection of luxury cars and owned numerous properties around the world, including a palace in Tripoli and a private island off the coast of Italy. Despite his wealth and political power, Gaddafi's regime was characterized by brutality and repression. He was accused of human rights abuses, including torture, extrajudicial killings, and the suppression of political opposition. His regime was also linked to terrorist organizations and was responsible for a number of high-profile attacks, including the bombing of a Pan Am flight over Lockerbie, Scotland in 1988. Gaddafi's downfall came during the Arab Spring uprisings, when popular protests erupted across Libya, calling for an end to his regime. After months of fighting, rebel forces captured and killed Gaddafi in October 2011, bringing an end to his 42-year reign.